Good morning, and welcome to the Tesla Roundtable portion of the Gruber Morning Show. I'm Mark Schaffner,
Good morning. My name is Victor Vianes.
and we're actually doing this filming on Monday afternoon and not
Yeah,
Tuesday
it's
morning
not
today.
morning. No, that feels weird.
This is a special edition of the Roadster podcast. We've got just schedules, vacations, things like that have come up. So we are pre-recording this particular podcast. We would like and just really ask that you send us your questions, give us your comments. At our next podcast, we will definitely go through those questions and comments, whether you're posting them on X or X or Twitter, same thing. Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, or any of our other platforms. So with that, Victor, I know that you're the one that's kind of gonna, as our general manager over at Gruber Motors, you've got a couple of topics for us today. Now that it's getting hot outside.
Oh yeah. Take a look at that Roadster that we got in the background.
That's a remarkable Roadster. I like that.
No hood veins. That was
no
interesting.
hood veins. Whoever's gonna sit in those seats, got to be skinny.
And it's gonna get burned too.
There's 3 seats.
Oh yeah, I didn't see that. There you go.
But that's AI does that. They make these beautiful looking cars, but they're not always completely accurate. Still, it's a great look. That sky looks exactly like a desert sun here in Arizona.
It feels hot too.
Yes, it sure does.
Question.
Yeah.
Are you guys ready for the heat? Because I heard that we're gonna have a excessive heat warning, I think, by the end of the week.
Yes.
Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we're gonna potentially hit 110 degrees already.
I thought Deer Valley already issued one.
Really?
The Deer Valley Airport, their weather station over there.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah. So
Are you ready, Aaron?
No. I'm still in my winter body. I have not have I don't have my summer body yet, so I'm going to struggle.
How about you, Jesse?
My AC works really good in my new apartment, so that's what I'm counting on. And I have a remote start in my car.
Yep.
Oh yeah, you're ready. Me? That's why I'm running away.
I'm gonna start taking vacation time during the summer.
Yeah, I'm running away. I'm going to the beach.
Well,
Nice.
not only did I want to complain about our temperature and our heat here in Phoenix, but I wanted to talk about what customers are going to be seeing and expecting now that the temperature is going to be increasing, along with some components that are being affected because of the heat and, of course, of age, right?
Sure.
So before we get started, last week I received a call from one of our clients. She's from Naples, Florida.
Okay.
And she called me concerned because her pumps and fans were turning on more often than what she remembers.
Okay.
And her AC condenser fans up in the front now started kicking in.
Oh, okay. Sure. Okay.
So she called me concerned, wanting to make sure that her vehicle was acting normal and okay. After reviewing the logs, the temperature, the data, and the environment, everything checked out to be fine. But the environment is a factor.
Oh yeah.
So her vehicle is in what was described as a small car garage with little to no ventilation.
Okay.
So she's probably experiencing some type of heat soak. So she now has placed some box fans in the garage to go ahead and prevent that and to gain some circulation.
Sure.
And I don't know if you started to see that in your vehicle. I don't know if you store it in a garage but I store my Model S in a garage, a single car garage, and it as well started to have the fan start activating. So I'm keeping the garage door a little cracked during the nighttime.
I don't have room in my garage for my son's business has kind of taken over the garage. So we have a 3-car garage that has 1 car space available to it.
Oh wow.
So my wife's Volvo gets that. Now the good thing about her car then, of course, is we do have cooling in the garage. Where Arizona, that's what we do. For my car, Yeah, I learned last summer, even with a Model S, if the car thinks it's getting too hot, it always preserves itself before the humans inside the car.
Right.
And the Roadster's the same way.
Right.
And so we would be traveling down the road in our Model S, and we would and the air would like turn off, and we were dying. We were, it's 110 outside, and the air conditioning just went out. And well, I learned pretty quickly the air conditioning didn't go out; it was just rerouting to the battery to help keep the battery cool.
Right. And that was one of those main reasons why our client was concerned, because she's used to the fans and the pumps running, but not usually the HVAC fans, the AC condenser fans up in the front hood vanes. So it turned out to be just an environment issue where the vehicle is being stored in a small contained area with little to no ventilation and needs some circulation to be able to kind of further breathe.
Sure.
Plus, her vehicle was at Gruber Motors last year for service and had her thermal management system, which is pumps, fans, and the HVAC system serviced and recharged, just recently overhauled. So her vehicle was acting as it should and ready to battle the summer heat.
Yeah, and it's definitely a battle in these Tesla Roadsters.
So for your Roadster owners, you will start to see fans and pumps kick on more often than they should, and that's just to go ahead and preserve the PEM and battery at operating temperature. This one customer claimed that she was losing about 10 miles of range per day because of the pumps and fans constantly kicking on.
Yeah, and for her, I'll bet that was a little bit of a concern, because if I remember, she had a resistive cell in her car, and it was losing 20 to 30 miles a day due to the resistive cell.
Right.
And she was maybe nervous that it was starting to happen again.
So loss of range is always a concern, and having your fans and pumps constantly running during the summer heat is always a concern. But she was glad to hear that her vehicle is acting as it should. And there's a couple of things that Roadster owners can go ahead and do to go ahead and ensure that your vehicle is prepped for summertime. Your thermal management system, the fans that run and cool off the heat sinks to the PEM, the fan that cools off the heat sinks to the drive unit, the duct that goes from those fans up to the PEM heat sinks. Those get old, dirty, so you want to ensure that they're inspected, cleaned, and or replaced, because those get dry, brittle, and get fissures. You don't want any escaping air that should potentially be going directly to your heat sinks. So we want to make sure that those have been inspected and replaced.
So educate me and our viewers as well. So you have this tube that's going up into the PEM, and you're saying if it cracks, it's a bad thing, and it's bad because it would be getting extra heat from the drive unit going into the PEM, or not getting the right amount of air, or what is it?
We'll not be getting the right amount of air that goes either to the heat sinks to the drive unit, or most importantly to the PEM, because the PEM is what drives the vehicle, and it's what gets hot and puts the vehicle into limp mode. Yeah, we want to make sure that fans are good, that the PEM duct that goes to the heat sinks has been inspected, cleaned, or replaced. And battery coolant pumps that keep the coolant circulating, that those have been serviced. You want to make sure that those are serviced within 5 years, or up to 5 years. And when they are replaced, ensure that the coolant system was properly purged and bled. We vacuum bleed our coolant system to ensure that there's no air left in the battery pack. It's just like on your ICE vehicles, you want to go ahead and properly bleed the coolant system.
Sure.
If not, you have air pockets and will create heat and overheat the motor, right? Same with the Roadster battery. You want to make sure that there's no air in the system.
Sure. And in an ICE vehicle, it's easy. You start fill up your radiator,
Run the pump.
run the engine for 30 seconds or a minute or whatever, and that circulates everything through, and you hear the gurgle and bubbles and stuff. And once those gurgles and bubbles are kind of gone, you shut it down and rinse and repeat. Kind of, you fill it, you fill your radiator back up with fluid, and then you run it again, and within 1 or 2 cycles, you're bled. You've got all the air out, and the coolant is just there.
And you would hope that all the air would be out, especially when on the EVs, but we've seen differently. We've seen where there's still pockets of air still stored away if it's done the manual way versus a vacuum bleeding.
Interesting. And now, is that possibly because the battery packs the top of the battery pack sits so high in that car compared to everything else?
I think it's just the structure of the battery on the water jackets on how they go through each sheet.
Okay, that makes sense.
So if the coolant pumps have been replaced, that it's properly bled. Also the HVAC system, that it's inspected, ensured that pressures are correct, and that there's no leaks, that's been serviced and recharged. So those are a couple of things that Roadster clients can go ahead and do to ensure that their vehicle is up to par for summertime.
Okay.
Temperature.
Yeah, I know here in Phoenix, I think it was last summer, Pete and I were talking about this, and he said, yeah, his garage isn't cooled, and the limiting temperature is somewhere between 140 and 145 degrees Fahrenheit.
Mm-hmm.
And in the middle of a summer afternoon, that garage at his house, it could get to 120 degrees plus inside the garage. So that's only about a 15 or 20 degree delta between battery limiting and ambient air temperature. So are you finding in other areas of the country people have that same issue?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, just like our customer in Florida, and some customers in Nevada. And we recommend that the trunk lid be popped open just to kind of further promote that circulation.
Oh, sure.
In Pete's case, he likes to go ahead and put a box fan or a floor fan up where the trunk is with the trunk lid open, just to kind of give it that.
Yeah, this
circulation.
helps a little bit.
Yeah. Question: you guys already started using your AC in your cars, right?
I don't think it ever goes off.
Yeah, same as Aaron. I live in Arizona. I grew up in the Northwest and in Alaska. I don't think my AC ever turns off during the course of the year.
Well, during the summertime, I can live through high temperature, and I just started going and turning on my AC just because the car just starts getting so hot at the end of the day, right?
Sure.
Then it cools off and it's livable. But when you turn on your AC, you ever get that funky odor? You get that like a certain smell,
Almost like a musty smell.
Mm-hmm. Well, I started seeing that on the Roadsters as well.
Okay.
And there's no cabin air filter, nothing like that. What happens is there's a duct that goes from the AC compressor into the cabin, and that as well gets dirty, gets fissures, dirt and grime get in. They're being held on by plastic zip ties. But what we've started seeing, and actually I think I have an example here. This is the duct that goes from the compressor into the cabin, and you can start seeing that there's some rust and corrosion starting to happen because of the internal bands of what the duct is manufactured from.
And is this like a PVC or a plastic type or a cloth type of ducting?
So these are an item that we're now starting to see that have aged, gotten brittle, and are starting to replace. Now, when we replace them with a much more robust, heavy-duty, rubber-insulated duct
Oh,
kind of
nice.
prevent from that rust and corrosion, and so it has a longer lifespan. And also we use stainless steel clamps rather than the OEM zip ties that the car originally comes with, just so you don't lose none of that. The HVAC system for the Roadster is not the greatest, especially for the driver.
Sure.
And you don't want to be you don't want to be losing any of that valuable cold air
Oh, sure.
because of an old duct.
$150,000 car put together and held together with zip ties.
Yes. So that's one of the items that that you really don't think of, that we're starting to go ahead and service and improve and clean
Makes
out as
sense.
well. Last week we talked about switch packs and how they're starting to be affected because of age and heat, because they sit under the front windshield underneath the dash, and we're doing our best to make improvements by wrapping them in high temperature reflectant foil. Well, we're also starting to see components in the high voltage battery pack that are also starting to age and be affected, of course, by heat and temperature.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So when a Roadster comes in and the battery pack needs to be extracted, either because of a resistive cell or a pop rivet issue, whatever the case is, the battery pack gets fully inspected. All of its internal components get inspected and tested. So meaning the APS, the auxiliary power supply, the BSM, the battery safety monitoring boards, the contactors, relays, fuses, all of that gets inspected, and we're now starting to see certain components that are regularly failing and needing to be replaced. And I brought some examples here too as well. Give me a second.
So while you're grabbing that example, it reminds me, switch packs is a fairly recent issue. I think we saw our first one fail, 2 years ago is all, or less?
2 years, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Just recently, we started seeing an influx in switch pack related issues.
So it truly is one of those things that it just is happening with age. It's outside of any normal warranty. That even if this had been a warranty car for 8 years, this would have been outside of that kind of warranty, because these are 14 and 15-year-old cars.
And they tend to pop up even more now with the heat. And that's another reason why we store and keep all of our vehicles inside, to protect them from the temperatures here in Arizona.
Sure. And
So
that's,
even though we have to deal with high temperature, we have our vehicles inside and further protected.
yeah, makes sense.
But here are a couple of components. Here's a relay, a pre-charge relay that we started seeing that is starting to go bad.
Watch, it's invisible.
Oh, yeah. It's green.
Maybe if we go like this
There you go.
instead.
Movie magic.
Yes, movie magic is still.
So relays, also contactors, also components that have cycle life as well. And heat doesn't treat these good. And if you notice, relays, contactors, this is a component that comes out of the PEM as well.
Okay.
And is a component that gets removed and replaced with a new one upon a PEM overhaul.
So these are parts in many cases that we have been able to source then from other third-party vendors.
Yep. So when you think about, I'm going to have my PEM overhauled because there's internal components that have wear, air, and aged. Those same components are found in your high voltage battery pack.
I see.
So when your vehicle comes into Gruber Motor Company and for whatever case or reason the battery pack needs to be dropped, they get inspected, tested, and have internal components replaced.
Okay. And so this contactor is going to be one of those components that gets replaced. This relay is another one that the whole relay gets replaced, or are you desoldering and resoldering stuff?
No, we source the relay itself and resolder to the board.
Okay, so you're keeping the board because the board itself has its own circuitry,
Yes,
and you're just desoldering and resoldering the relay itself, which
Yeah.
is the black piece.
absolutely.
Oh, very interesting.
And not only, I mean, I have a couple of components here that I was able to bring into the podcast, but the Roadster sheets themselves, you can see how the plastic clamshell is starting to age and get brittle. When you extract a Roadster sheet, that has some plastic tabs in the back where the B&B board, the battery management board, is held in place. We have to treat those with, we have to be extra delicate because they're brittle now. And they
okay.
commonly break, and that's what holds down the B&B boards. So again, just components that are just aging with time, aging with heat, that we're starting to see service and replace and further advise our clients.
Sure, and that makes sense. You know, these we've heard several times in the past that these batteries had an original expected service life of about 10 years.
Yeah.
And you know,
They've surpassed that promise.
yeah, the very newest of the Roadsters are 12 to 13 years old. Most Roadsters are between 14 and 16 years old.
Yeah, so that's kind of why I wanted to go ahead and further educate our customers, because it's not just resistive cells, it's not just pop rivet and bleed scan issues. There are internal components that are wearing and tearing. The APS, you know, it's a component that we extract to go ahead and further test to ensure that there's a good load on it before it gets reassembled and put back. It's a lot of labor to go ahead and extract a Roadster pack and to reinstall in order for a component to fail. So if and when your vehicle is here and it's here because of a resistive cell, have some peace of mind that not only are we going to go ahead and assess the resistive cell, but we're also going to go ahead and review the vehicle in its entirety and provide recommendations to further service.
Oh, sure,
vehicle.
because it's so much less expensive to bring the car here once, drop the pack once, and take care of whatever issues there are, than it is to bring the car here 2 or 3 or 4 times and take care of individual issues each time.
Yeah.
I'm sure that the customers are much more appreciative of that, and if they decide not to do it, they have full disclosure. They know what kind of risk they're taking.
Yeah, I'd hate for a battery pack to be repaired due to a resistive cell and go back to the East Coast and have it fail because of a contactor that wasn't easily replaced. But yeah, we don't have tunnel vision. You know, a lot of our Model S3X, our sexy customers, they come in and say, "Oh, well, I had my brakes done, and now I'm hearing some noise from the shocks." When we perform a service, not only are we focused on that service, but everything surrounding it to ensure that the customer is fully aware. Because we've had some customers where they've had brakes done, and there's a shock bolt missing.
Oh man!
It's like, how was that missed? And
Holy
better question,
cow.
how did that come loose, right?
Yeah. You know, driving down the road and I go to take a corner and all of a sudden my whole tire kind of comes apart.
Yeah. So when your vehicle is here, rest assured that it's fully reviewed, inspected, and that way we can go ahead and provide the correct recommendations.
Makes a lot of sense.
If anyone has any questions, any concerns, is interested in any services, please feel free to give us a call or email us at ev@gruber.com.
Perfect. Wonderful. Are there any other things that are heat related that the Roadsters have?
One thing I think it might be fairly important is make sure your tires have been replaced within the past 5 years,
Sure.
4 years. I mean, really, we've seen some tires that are as old as the car.
Oh man, that can be a dangerous situation. The tires get hot. The heat on the roads and in the high temperatures makes it worse. And this is not unique to Roadsters. This is, in fact, it's not even unique to Tesla. Electric vehicles are hard on tires.
Yeah, all that weight.
And yeah, with all that weight, they're hard on tires, and that's the last thing you'd want to have is somebody. You would hope that they were taken off from a stop when their tire blows, because at least then they're not going that fast.
And most of the times it can create damage to the car, damage to another car.
Yeah.
If you have a blowout. So for the customers that have their vehicle serviced by Gruber, when it comes time to doing the road test, if the tires aren't up to spec or up to par, we hold off on the driving. We reach out to the customer, recommend tires, and or we place our own set of tires to be able to go ahead and continue moving forward and testing, so we don't have any delays.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's a good idea for us to be able to do that.
Yep.
Well, thank you, Victor. I appreciate that. Extra tips and tricks about dealing with the heat. I know these are specific Roadster tips and tricks, but we see a lot of that with the other cars as well. I know for my Model S, now that we've got the hot temperatures, I'm fortunate. I have access to a charger while I'm here at work. And so I do have a tendency to plug the car in, go ahead and turn on the cabin air conditioning, at least on the Model S. That actually helps to condition the battery during the day as well.
Yeah, I'm going to have to play with that setting, because I think I usually turn that off. Anything that's going to consume more energy, I usually turn it off.
Yeah, if I'm plugged in, I leave it on, because nothing quite like getting into a nice cool cabin.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So, anything else for us today?
No, I think that's all I have for.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time, and I know you're going to be here with us one more time, and then we'll be back with Pete. And but again, good tips and tricks. Thank you for the time today.
Thank you, guys.
So we will be back again next week. We will do another pre-recorded, and we'll answer questions. We'll have some new topics out, kind of keep them condensed like we have here. Come with those questions. And then in a couple weeks, we'll be back to the live podcasts. Look forward to seeing everybody at that point in time. Take care, everyone.
Stay safe.